Maria Rodriguez's sneakers squeaked against the polished floors of Venture Corp's 50th floor office suite. The vacuum's hum echoed through the empty building, the only sound in the otherwise silent office. Her tired eyes darted around the room as she pushed the heavy machine, each step bringing her closer to the end of another exhausting night shift. She had to finish the last few offices, just 3 more, and then she could go home to her daughter, Lily. Maria wiped the sweat from her brow, her uniform clinging to her body as exhaustion weighed her down. As she cleaned, she stole a glance at the photo tucked inside her pocket. It was a picture of Lily, her 8-year-old with a big, gap-toothed smile. That smile was the reason Maria pushed herself harder each night. The overtime meant Lily could have the new shoes she needed for school. Suddenly, the elevator dinged, its chime piercing the silence. Maria's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't expecting anyone at this hour. The door slid open, revealing Daniel Croft, Venture Corp's CEO. His $3,000 Tom Ford suit was immaculate, and his cold blue eyes locked onto her as he stepped out, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble. Maria froze, her hand still gripping the vacuum handle. Croft's gaze narrowed as he took in her disheveled appearance. He sneered, "You're fired." Maria blinked, the words sinking into her chest like cold steel. What?" Croft's lip curled into a cruel smile. He held up a silver Mont Blanc pen between his perfectly manicured fingers. "This was in my desk drawer yesterday. Now it's gone," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Security footage shows you were the last one in my office." Maria's throat went dry. "Mr. Croft, I would never—" "Save it." He snapped his fingers and 2 hulking security guards emerged from the elevator. "Escort this thief out and make sure HR terminates her access immediately." The guards grabbed her arms roughly, their hands like steel cuffs. Maria's cleaning cart overturned with a crash, spray bottles and rags scattering across the expensive marble. From the cubicles, a group of junior associates laughed, their voices carrying down the hallway. One intern, holding up his phone, jeered, "Bye-bye, mop lady!" As they dragged Maria toward the elevator, she saw Croft standing in his office doorway, smirking as he twirled the pen between his fingers. He didn't even look at her as she was shoved into the elevator. The doors began to close, but before they shut completely, she heard his parting words. "Enjoy the food bank cleaner." Maria's mind spun as the elevator descended. She clutched the eviction notice in her hands, her fingers trembling. The post-it stuck to the edge read, "Final notice. Pay by Friday or vacate." Her stomach churned with dread. She had nothing left. No job, no backup plan, and worst of all, no way to pay for Lily's school shoes, her rent, or her daughter's future. As she stepped into the cold night, Maria felt a crushing weight pressing against her chest. The world felt like it was closing in. She didn't know how she was going to survive, but one thing was clear. Daniel Croft had made a mistake. The next morning, Maria sat at the kitchen table, her hands shaking as she tried to focus on Lily's smiling face across from her. The little girl chattered excitedly about her day at school, oblivious to the storm that was raging inside her mother. Maria smiled through her tears, forcing her voice to sound light. "Mommy, do you think I could get some sparkly shoes like Sarah's?" Lily asked, eyes wide with hope. Maria's heart broke. She couldn't even afford the rent, let alone a pair of shoes for Lily, but she couldn't let her daughter see the desperation in her eyes. She forced a smile and nodded. "Of course, Mija. Mommy's going to fix everything." Her phone buzzed on the table, and Maria's heart skipped a beat. A message popped up from a number she didn't recognize. "It's time. We've got your back." Maria stared at the message. Her fingers hovered over the screen. It couldn't be. Could it? She didn't respond. Instead, she slid the phone back into her pocket, trying to shake off the unfamiliar feeling creeping up her spine. Later that day, Maria found herself at the VA hospital, the antiseptic smell of the building assaulting her senses as she made her way down the sterile hallway. She could hear the faint murmur of nurses and orderlies, but she didn't stop. She was focused, her heart pounding in her chest. Room 12's door stood slightly ajar, and through the gap, Maria saw the familiar silhouette of her father, Colonel Miguel Rojas. His wheelchair was parked next to the bed, his broad shoulders framed by the window behind him. Without knocking, Maria pushed the door open. "Dad," she whispered, her voice cracking as she stepped inside. "I need your help." Miguel's dark eyes that mirrored her own, sharpened as he turned toward her. The scars on his face, remnants of the IED blast in Iraq, seemed to intensify his glare. "Maria," he said, his voice rough like gravel, "your text said it was urgent." Maria collapsed into the chair beside him, the dam inside her breaking. She poured out everything: Croft's false accusation, the public humiliation, the eviction notice, and the fear gnawing at her soul. Her father listened quietly, his jaw clenched with barely contained anger. When she finished, Miguel reached for his phone, his fingers missing two of them. He dialed the number with practiced precision. "Sergeant Torres?" he barked into the receiver. "It's Rojas. I need the unit. The original one." Maria's breath caught. The tone in his voice sent a chill down her spine. That was the tone he used when he meant business. The tone that commanded respect. She'd heard it before, and it never boded well for anyone on the receiving end. Miguel hung up the phone and locked eyes with her. "Pack a bag for Lily. You're staying at the base tonight." "Dad, I don't think—" "Maria." His voice lowered to that dangerous whisper, the one she remembered from childhood when he'd taken care of things that shouldn't be handled by anyone else. "The pen camera you installed in Croft's office? The one you've been using to gather evidence? I know what it recorded." Maria's heart slammed against her ribs. "The meeting," Miguel continued. "The one where Croft discussed bribing EPA officials. The one where he said, 'Who cares if some poor kids get cancer? Their parents should have worked harder.'" Maria's blood ran cold. Miguel smiled, and it was not a smile of comfort. "It's time to teach this pendejo what happens when he messes with a Rodriguez." The next morning, Daniel Croft strutted into the Venture Corp lobby, his usual arrogance oozing from every step. Flanked by his high-priced lawyers, he walked past the reception desk, heading straight toward the photo shoot waiting for him. The Wall Street Journal photographer was already in place, ready to immortalize Croft as the philanthropist of the year. But as he reached the center of the lobby, something caught his eye. The room was packed, not with the usual board members and executives, but with men in military uniforms, veterans, active duty. And they all wore the same insignia, 101st Airborne. At the front of the formation stood Maria, in a navy blue pantsuit, and beside her, Colonel Miguel Rojas. Croft's laughter died in his throat. "What is this? Some kind of veterans charity event?" he sneered, turning to his head of security. "Get these people out of my lobby." But the security chief didn't move. He stared straight ahead, his face pale. Maria stepped forward, her heels clicking on the marble floor like the final verdict. Her voice rang out clear and strong. "Funny thing about your stolen pen, Daniel." She held up an identical Mont Blanc, twirling it between her fingers. "The one you accused me of taking?" She pressed a button. The screens lining the lobby flickered to life, one by one. Each one displayed damning footage. Croft accepting a bribe. Croft ordering the illegal dumping of toxic waste. Croft laughing about the cancer clusters in low-income neighborhoods. Reporters outside pressed against the glass, their cameras flashing. Croft's face turned the color of an overripe tomato. "That's doctored. I'll sue you for—" "Actually," a booming voice interrupted, "you'll be too busy testifying before Congress." The crowd parted as Senator James Holloway walked in, flanked by federal agents. Thanks to Mrs. Rodriguez's evidence, we've been building a RICO case against Venture Corp for months. Croft turned on Maria, his face twisted with rage. You bitch, I'll destroy you, But before he could finish, a black Suburban with government plates pulled up outside. The back door opened. A polished combat boot hit the pavement, then another. And then, stepping into the light, was Maria's brother, Alejandro. Alejandro, presumed KIA in Syria, stood tall in his dress blues, a chest full of medals gleaming. His smile was as cold as a glacier. "Hello, Danny boy," Alejandro said, cracking his knuckles. "Remember that oil field deal in Iraq? The one where you sold out my unit's position?" Croft stumbled backward into his lawyers, his face going pale. "That's not... I have immunity." Alejandro pulled a folded paper from his pocket and let it fall open. "Not from this." He let it drop onto the floor. "Executive Order 13792, authorizing military tribunal for treason." The federal agents moved in. Alejandro leaned close to Croft's ear and whispered, "Sleep tight, Mr. CEO. You're going to Gitmo." Maria stood tall, her eyes never leaving Croft's terrified face. The military tribunal was about to begin, but Maria knew this was only the beginning. Croft had one last card to play, and she was about to find out just how deep the corruption ran. The real question remained. Would Croft's downfall bring justice, or would it open the door to an even darker secret?